The fog rolled in thick over the Louisiana bayou just before sunrise, turning the water silver and swallowing the far shore. At the edge of a half-forgotten marina, where broken docks leaned into the reeds and old fishing boats rotted where they had been tied years ago, a stray puppy sat shivering on a splintered plank. He was no more than 4 months old, all ribs and muddy paws with short tan fur and one white patch over his left eye. Every few minutes he would stand, place his front paws against the side of an abandoned wooden boat, and bark into the darkness inside it. Most people in the town of Belmere had seen the little dog by then. For 3 days he had refused to leave the old boat, no matter who tried to coax him away. Miss Evelyn from the bait shop brought scraps of catfish. A teenager from the gas station left out water in a rusted bowl. Old Mr. Landry, who had worked those docks for 40 years, tried to carry him home, but the puppy twisted free, ran straight back, and resumed his place beside the boat, as if guarding something too important to abandon. Crazy mutt, some people said, probably sleeping in there. But Eli Turner didn't think so. At 38, Eli had spent his whole life on the water. He was a commercial fisherman, broad-shouldered and quiet, the kind of man who noticed subtle things, shifting currents, strange bird patterns, the smell of incoming rain. On the third evening, after hauling in a disappointing catch of shrimp, he saw the puppy again. The little animal wasn't resting. He was frantic. He kept circling the boat, scratching at its side, crying in soft, desperate whimpers, then barking into the hull as if begging for an answer. Eli tied off his skiff and walked over slowly. "What have you got in there, huh?" The puppy froze, tail low, eyes huge and exhausted. For a second he looked ready to bolt. Then instead he ran to the bow of the abandoned boat and let out a sharp bark. He looked at Eli, barked again, then scratched the wood so hard his tiny paws squeaked against it. Eli stepped closer. The boat had once been a shrimp trawler, maybe 25 feet long, now half sunk into mud at low tide. Its paint had peeled away in strips, and one side sagged where the hull had cracked years ago. People called it the Maribel. It had belonged to a fisherman named Auguste Brousseau, who died the previous winter, after which the boat had simply been left to rot in the forgotten corner of the marina. "You think there's something inside," Eli murmured. The puppy barked once, sharp and urgent. By then the light was fading fast. Eli climbed onto the warped dock and peered through a broken side window into the cabin. All he saw was darkness, tangled rope, and old debris. The smell was foul, part stagnant water, part mildew, part something else he couldn't place. He shone his flashlight through the glass, but years of grime dulled the beam. "You're not making sense, little man," he said. Still, the puppy did not move from the boat. That night a storm rolled through, hard and sudden. Rain hammered the tin roofs in Belmere, and wind bent the marsh grass nearly flat. Eli lay awake longer than he wanted to admit, thinking about the dog alone by the marina. At dawn, when the storm finally passed and the sky lightened to a pale gray, he drove back. The puppy was still there, soaked to the bone, trembling, eyes red from exhaustion, but still there, and he was barking harder than ever. This time Eli didn't hesitate. He grabbed a pry bar, a flashlight, and climbed carefully onto the tilted deck of the Maribel. The wood groaned under his boots. The puppy scrambled up behind him, whining now, pressing close to Eli's leg but refusing to back away. "Easy," Eli muttered, forcing open the swollen cabin door. The smell hit him first. Not just rot, not just floodwater, something living, something trapped. He lifted the flashlight and swept the beam across the cabin. Broken tackle boxes, molded life jackets, collapsed shelving. Then a pile of old tarps near the rear wall shifted. Eli went still. He stepped closer and pulled the tarp back. Underneath, curled in a cramped hollow between crates, was a female dog. Thin almost beyond belief, her fur matted and stained with oil and mud, her breathing shallow. Her eyes opened only halfway when the light touched her face. Tucked against her belly were two tiny newborn puppies, still blind, still weak, barely moving. My God, Eli breathed. The stray puppy beside him gave a cry so full of relief it barely sounded like barking. He scrambled forward and licked the mother dog's muzzle over and over, tail shaking wildly. Eli stared, understanding all at once. The stray puppy had not been lost. He had been coming back for her. He must have been one of her older pups from a previous litter, hanging around the marina, surviving on scraps, somehow knowing his mother was trapped inside that ruined boat after crawling there to give birth during the storm days before. While everyone thought he was stubborn or wild, he had been trying to tell them that his family was inside. The mother dog tried weakly to lift her head but could not. One of the newborns let out a tiny squeak. Eli moved fast. He shrugged off his jacket and wrapped the two newborns first, then gently lifted the mother. She was so light it frightened him. The older puppy stayed glued to her side, whining and licking her face as Eli carried them down to his truck. He drove straight to Dr. Lena Morales, the town veterinarian, pounding on her clinic door before she officially opened. Lena took one look at the bundle in his arms and ushered him inside without a word. For the next hour, Eli stood in the corner of the exam room with rainwater still dripping from his boots while Lena worked. The mother was dangerously dehydrated, starved, and suffering from infection. One of the newborn puppies was fading fast. The older stray puppy paced in tight, anxious circles, refusing food, refusing water, refusing to take his eyes off the table. Lena finally pulled off her gloves and looked at Eli. Another 12 hours and she wouldn't have made it. Eli glanced down at the little tan pup. He knew. Lena followed his gaze. The puppy had finally settled beneath the table, directly under where the mother lay, as if guarding her even now. Looks like he did. The mother survived. So did both newborns, though the smallest needed round-the-clock bottle support for the first week. The tan stray, whom Eli's daughter later named Patch, never left the clinic during those early days. If someone moved the mother to clean her bedding, Patch stood up. If one of the newborns cried, Patch ran to the box and peered over the edge with frantic concern, tail twitching. Belmere changed its opinion of the little dog after that. People who had laughed now brought blankets, food, and toys. Miss Evelyn cried openly when she came by the clinic and heard the story. Mr. Landry, who had once called him a crazy mutt, shook his head and said, "That little rascal's got more loyalty than most men I've known." When the mother was strong enough, Lena asked the question everyone had been avoiding. "Can you take them?" she said to Eli. "At least until we find homes?" Eli looked at Patch, who was asleep with his chin resting on the edge of the whelping box, as if standing watch even in dreams. He looked at the mother, finally eating from a bowl with weak but steady determination. Then he smiled, slow and certain. "I think they've already decided," he said. By the end of summer, the abandoned boat had been hauled away from the marina. In its place, Eli built a small shaded pen beside his bait shed where the mother dog and her pups could stay while they grew stronger. The two newborns were eventually adopted by families in town. The mother, whom Eli's daughter named Mercy, stayed. So did Patch. And on quiet mornings, when the fog rolled over the bayou and the fishing boats pushed out into open water, people at the marina would sometimes see Patch sitting at the dock's edge beside Eli, no longer crying, no longer desperate, just watching the light spread over the water with the family he had refused to abandon.